Hello and welcome to Finextra TV. I'm Hannah Wallace and we're speaking in the lead up to Singapore Fintech Festival. With me now in the virtual studio is Karolis Zemaitis, Vice Minister at the Ministry of Economy and Innovation for the Republic of Lithuania. So Karolis, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today. Good to have you on.
Hello, pleasure to be here.
Really good to have you on. Of course, we're speaking in the lead up to Singapore Fintech Festival, which will be a busy event for you. I know you're attending a roundtable, which will be focusing on the next generation of digital public infrastructure. So a really interesting one. Looking forward to hearing more about that. But to begin with, it'd be great if you could bring us up to date and tell us a bit more about the concept, but also the transformation journey so far around the digital public infrastructure. So let's start there.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here just before the Singapore, all the events that will be happening in Singapore. And, from my point of view, I'm very happy to be speaking about this topic because Lithuania is one of the most digitally developed countries in the world. On the other hand, there is a lot of potential for our future development in digitalization. So when it comes to digitalization, of course, always private sector is in the front lines of digitalization and public sector is the one that is catching up. And I think there's always this distance between the private and public sector, and our role is to minimize this distance and to make the transformation as fast as possible in the public sector. Right now, Lithuania already has 90% of Lithuania's services are already digital, but still I think it's 10% too little. We have to work on the rest of the 10% that is still physical, but the rest is 90% is digital. And we are right now working on implementing on several reforms when it comes to public and administrative digitalization. On the other hand, this takes time, and it both comes with the question about the physical infrastructure, digital infrastructure, cybersecurity. So it's a very complex process that we're going through. No matter the fact that Lithuania created its infrastructure in the 90s from scratch, that allowed us to be in the front lines of the digital ecosystem. But of course, we have to run very fast in order to keep in the same place.
As you say, it is a real complex area, but it'll be fantastic at the event to get those policymakers, the regulators, the FIs all in one room discussing it. So thanks for bringing us up to date then. So what do you think needs to be considered then when reimagining the next generation of digital public infrastructure? What's sort of front of mind there?
Well, I think the most important aspect is the citizen-centric design, because when we speak about digitalization, we have to speak about the whole society, about inclusive and having this inclusive approach, because in many cases, we as the society are moving forward in digitalization by the speed of the slowest participant. Meaning that we have to look at how we include all the members of the society with different social backgrounds, different age backgrounds, who are participants of our digital ecosystem. So this citizen-centric design approach, creating user-friendly technologies, focusing on problem solving. This is something that is very key and critical for us, because in many cases we see some examples when we create some very fancy digital infrastructure that on paper looks very nice, but nobody is using that because it's not user friendly, it's not inclusive, and so on and so forth. So I think even though we might make smaller steps, but steps that include everyone, rather than making huge leaps who are only benefiting very, very few who are able or capable to use certain technology. So I think this is the key aspect. Of course, security and privacy is very, very important for us as well when we look at this, especially when we look at this next generation. I think this is something that has been discussed for many years, and it will be discussed still. Also, the decentralization is also one of the aspects that we have a lot of discussions right now between the policymakers as well as the private sector as well. How not to be afraid of decentralization as a concept, but include that and how to make it work all together.
Well, fantastic. Some words of wisdom there, good advice. And what about this move then to Web3 and that world, as it were? What are the implications there for this?
Yeah, well, first of all, like Lithuania in general is one of the fintech hubs in generally, meaning that we are already in the front lines of the financial technologies in Europe. One of the key countries who have been implementing different kind of technologies and different kind of approach. And I think this is a good example that Lithuania did 5 years ago with fintech, when the Central Bank of Lithuania, which is the regulatory institution, actually was the one who was pushing the fintech revolution in Lithuania, who was open for businesses, open for new ideas, who made a sandbox in Lithuania for companies to work on that. So this is the mentality that I think we have to keep as well with Web3 technologies, not isolating ourselves from that, not thinking about that as a threat, but thinking about that as an opportunity. So for us, we see when it comes, especially when it comes to blockchain, we see, which might sound paradoxical from a governmental representative, but I see a lot of potential for blockchain, especially in the decision-making process, more inclusive decision-making process, using the technology for better governance as well. Even though we have some old-fashioned ways in that, I think we have to be very, very open for exploring that. On the other hand, of course, again, we come back to security, privacy, and all the other aspects that are still there. But this is something that I think we have to look into, take into account, as well as smart contracts. So I think the possibilities are limitless, but I think the biggest limitations in many cases that we have is this attitude of the decision makers in many cases, in many regulatory environments, is that we are afraid of the technology, and we don't have the liberty. I think we shouldn't do that. We have to be open, and this is a constant discussion we have with many European decision makers all around the table in European Union, is how we are dealing with artificial intelligence, how we're dealing with blockchain, how we're dealing with cryptocurrencies. What is the approach? And Lithuania's approach was always that we have to be open. We have to analyze, but we have to be very open to this, because this is the world that we will be living, in the upcoming 5 years. So I think it's a bit of a mirage to isolate yourself and say that, this is not going to happen. People are already using contactless payments, even though, most of the societies 20, 30 years ago were completely based on cash, and that happened in 20 years.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to hear how, although there are still challenges with moving forward, there come a lot of opportunities. They tend to go hand in hand, and interesting to get the approach that Lithuania will be taking as well, which leads me into my final question then. How do you think interoperability between the different countries could be achieved to drive that cross-border inclusion then? By no means a simple task, but what are your thoughts there?
Well, I think we are living in a very interesting world, because on one hand, we become much more dependent on each other. On the other hand, there is a very clear understanding how we should be resilient, how we should de-risk or even decouple. And these are also the topics and discussions that are happening. And I think this is the world of paradoxes that we are right now living. No matter the fact, I think especially when we are speaking about ecosystems who are related to each other, who are like I can give you example of European Union. This is the most advanced and richest region in the world. On the other hand, we're always thinking how are we competing with other regions like Southeast Asia, or North America. And this is so. I think first of all, this common technological standards and protocols are important. And Lithuania again is a very open economy. We're a small and very open economy, so we are really working on the international frameworks and institutions together with them. So for us, common technical standards protocols are important, as well as harmonizing regulatory frameworks also across borders. That is something that we've been very strongly believing within European Union. creating the common single market of 500 million, which for Lithuania, being a small country, is a massive benefit, being part of European Union. And of course, we really believe in this idea. On the other hand, we also believe in the idea that, we have to protect our intellectual property. We have to be very clear about how our technology is being used, whether it's being used against us or not. So these are also the aspects that we have to take into account between this interoperability and also competition. And I think this is something that we have, that we are experiencing in this world currently, in the global ecosystem, is that we are looking at both at the benefits and the drawbacks of interoperability as well as competition. And I think this is something that, and we will be living in this paradox for the time to come. And no matter the fact, we still believe in fair and open trade, between countries. And I think technology is the main driver for that.
Fascinating. Well, Karolis, thank you so much for sharing your insights on the next generation of digital public infrastructure and how that interoperability will work between those two countries. And I urge anyone listening in who are looking to learn more to, attend and listen into the roundtable. But we'll leave it there for now and look forward to catching up further down the line. Thank you very much.
Thank you.